There are other offices I can run for that people have asked me to run for because they think it's easier politically for me. I run for the U.S. Senate for one simple reason. There is no one else in this race that's talking about these things in a principled and genuine way. There are people. I warn you, there are candidates that are going to start talking this way, that all of a sudden decide maybe activist judges are not a good idea. Maybe the stimulus was not that great idea. Maybe, maybe cap and trade isn't really all it was cracked up to be. There are people that will start reinventing themselves, but that means they're not genuine. And that's the problem with Washington politics. Let me correct myself. That's the problem with politics, period. You have too many people that will say or do whatever they need to say or do to win your vote. They will be whatever you want them to be. Whatever you want them to be, they will be that election cycle. And they believe they can get away with it because they can raise so much money that they can put up all these commercials to, at a minimum, confuse you. And by the way, if they raise enough money, they don't just have to confuse you. If they can't convince you to vote for them, then they'll do whatever they can to convince you to vote against their opponent or not vote at all. And so you want to know why people don't enter public service? And you want to know why no one takes a principled stand on politics? Because they think that's not how you win elections anymore. In fact, I have been told, be as least specific as possible. Don't take any firm positions on any issues, because you want to be flexible enough to be able to win in the general election. Well, that's a big problem in American politics. It cheats you of choices, and it degrades the political process. But why is the next generation going to be worse off than us if we don't change course? First is, everything that's made America special and unique in the world is under attack. Everything. And some people say, well, what's so unique about America? Is it your political rights? Our political rights are very special. But from those political rights has sprung something even more special. And that is an unequaled prosperity unfound anywhere in the history of the world. And I summarize it in a very simple statement. This is the only country in the history of the world where poor people can put billionaires out of business because they have a better idea and are willing to work hard. It's the only society in the world where that happens. Time and time again around the world, for most people on the planet, what their life will be like is decided the day that they are born. If they are born into a certain family, if they are born into poverty, if they are born into misfortune, if they are born into broken neighborhoods, they will never emerge from that because their society does not allow that to happen. That's not just true in some countries. That is in the majority of countries, even in Western Europe, even in industrial powers. The same families and the same companies have run those economies for generations. There is no upward mobility. And so the son of a bartender may grow up to own a bar, but he'll never grow up to be a U.S. senator or even a beer distributor for that matter. There is a true political caste system that exists in many of the economies around the world. And you know what that's a function of? That's a function of a government control over the economy. When the government picks the winners and losers, the powerful are the winners. The people who have made it are the ones who win. And the people who are trying to make it are the ones who lose, to the point where the people who are trying to make it don't try to make it anymore. And so where do the go-getters in France and Spain and Europe and all across the world go? They come to the United States. They come here. They come here. There's a reason why there aren't American refugees winding up on the shores of other countries. There's a reason why Canada's not building a fence to keep us out. There's a reason and the reason is that all over the world, if you're born into certain circumstances, you either accept it or you try to find your way to America. That's what's made our nation special. And you know where that comes from? It comes from two things. Number one, it comes from a very simple concept that we take for granted. It's the notion that your rights as a person come from your Creator. That's in our Declaration of Independence. When that was written 233 years ago, it wasn't just revolutionary, it was treason. It was treason. It was treason to say that you as an individual had rights that belonged to you, that were given to you by your Creator, and that had nothing to do with the king. Because up until that point, the king was the giver. The king was appointed by God, basically. And anything that happened, good or bad to you, was because the king allowed you to have good things or allowed you to have bad things. That's what it was all about. To argue that somehow every human being on the planet had rights that belonged to them, granted to them by their Creator, was not just revolutionary, it was treason. But when a nation truly believes that, when you truly believe that every single human being, irrespective of who your parents are, or how poor you were, or what schools you go to, or what the dynamics of your family are like, when you come to the conclusion that no matter what the circumstances you were born into are, you have the same rights as anybody else, and you really mean it, and you take government action to protect that, you will have the kind of upward mobility and prosperity that America has created. That is the source of our greatness, is the fact that everyone born in America has the right, and quite frankly should, dream of fulfilling their potential, because you can. But you can't in a country where government picks the winners and losers. And that's what's happening in America today. And that's where the Republican Party has lost its way. We have not been identified as the party trying to help the people who are trying to make it. People have wrongly identified us as the defenders of the people who have already made it. Here are the cold hard facts. If you've already made it, if you're a Fortune 500 company, if you're a billionaire, you may not like big government, but you can survive big government because you can hire the lobbyists to change the rules and regulations, and you can hire the lawyers and accountants to manipulate the rules and regulations. But if you're a small business owner, if you're someone trying to start a business out of the garage of your home, in violation of the local zoning ordinance, by the way. If you're someone who last night drew up a business plan on the back of a napkin, and tomorrow are going to draw out your life savings to open that business, you're going to have trouble if big government exists, because you can't navigate the traps that big government creates. And so ultimately, your choices are to remain an employee where you work, or try to find somewhere else where it works. That's what made America special, is the fact that this is the only country where anyone can put their boss out of business. If you think you can do a better job than your boss, you can open up a competitor and you can put them out. And the evidence is undeniable. The Standard & Poor's 500 is a measure of some of the top companies in America. Of the original 500, only 70 remain in the S&P 500. The rest have been replaced by other companies that took their place and put them out of business. It's called creative destruction. That means that no matter how rich and how powerful you are, there's somebody hungrier than you are nipping at your heels. You better step it up or they'll put you out of business. And that's good for our economy and it's good for our country. But you can't do that in a big government environment. Number one, government picks the winners and losers through rules and regulations. Number two, it picks winners and losers through our tax policy. That's why we're in desperate need of tax reform. Warren Buffett, one of the richest men in the world who supported Barack Obama. You may say, how can a billionaire support Barack Obama? It's very simple. He doesn't care what you do with the tax code. Warren Buffett does something you and I can't do. He controls where he gets his money, when he gets his money, how he gets his money. He even controls what currency he gets his money in. Most people that work, they just take it out of your paycheck every 2 weeks. So you can write whatever you want in the tax code. He's got the best lobbyists, and he's got the best lawyers and accountants to work that system. And that's why on many years, he pays a lower marginal percentage than his secretary does. He pays a lower marginal percentage than his secretary. I'm not anti-Warren Buffett. I don't even know him. I'm just telling you that now who gets hurt by the system? The small businessman and the entrepreneur who's trying to because they can't game the system. We pick winners and losers through tax policy. That's why this country desperately needs either a fair tax or a dramatic simplification of the tax code.